Welcome to St. Albert, a bedroom community on the outskirts of Edmonton and the cornerstone of the new riding of St. Albert-Edmonton, not to be confused with the old riding of Edmonton-St. Albert. Here's how the two ridings differ. The old riding, grey and pink, has been superseded by the new riding, grey and blue. Not a huge difference. Regardless of what it's called, though, this area of the city has always been considered a very safe Conservative seat. However, this election, it might be a little different because there's not one, but two right-of-centre candidates. First, there is Brent Rathgaber. He was elected as a Conservative in the last election, but has since abandoned Tory blue for independent purple.
Brent Rathgaber, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Would you like to see the Sturgeon River?
I would. Thank you very much.
Let's go take a little walk. I tabled a private member's bill in the fall of 2012 called the CBC and Public Sector Disclosure and Transparency Act. For a variety of reasons, the government decided that they no longer supported Private Members Bill C-461, and when it was in front of the Access and Information Committee, the Conservative...
Without their support, it's a dead duck.
Well, in this parliamentary system, yes, it is. In a functioning parliamentary system, the legislators, the elected members, should decide the fate of a bill.
So you chose to leave? So
I chose to leave. I resigned later that day.
And did you jump or were you pushed?
Oh, I jumped. Although I think there were I had been blogging for some time about how the government was not treating taxpayers respectfully, how things like the F-35 procurement was completely out of control, and this was going to cost taxpayers, easily 3 or 4 times the initial $9 billion estimate. I blogged about ministerial opulence, about the limousines in Ottawa, and about the $16 orange juice that Minister Oda enjoyed when she was in London.
So you were making waves?
Well, I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do, and that was represent my constituents and hold the government to account for how it spends taxpayers' dollars.
Did the government ever any time say, "Oh, come on, Brent, don't be that way. We want you in the fold"?
All the time. The Prime Minister's office would phone and they would yell at me. They would demand that I edit my blog. They would, demand that I take my blog down. They tried to discipline me. They moved me off the Public Safety Committee and put me on the Library of Parliament Committee, which, as you know, is the parliamentary equivalent of the junior high school detention hall. They've actually moved my seat in the House of Commons from the government backbench to the opposition backbench and right into the far left corner where you're so far from the action you need binoculars to see the Prime Minister during question period. Now, the hyper-partisans, the people, including my former campaign team, including the riding association that I worked with, I think they felt disappointed, and some might even tell you that they felt betrayed by my decision, and that's probably fair. But they're hyper-partisans, and if you live in a hyper-partisan world, and if you worship at the altar of Stephen Harper, obviously you'd be very disappointed by a member that you helped get elected leaving the party fold. But the vast majority of my constituents don't belong to the Conservative Party. They might vote for the Conservative Party, but they don't belong to it. They, for the most part, were very respectful, and it was they ultimately that convinced me that I should run again and that they would continue to support me.
Taking Rathgaber's place as the Conservative candidate is the man who ran Rathgaber's campaign in the last election, Michael Cooper.
Michael. Oh, hi.
Hi, how
are you?
David Kincaid from CPAC.
Nice to see you.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time today.
Well, thanks for coming.
All operational, fully functional, ready to go?
Absolutely. Well, we've been doing this for a long time. I won my nomination in November of 2014, and we've been hitting the ground ever since.
When the Prime Minister dropped the writ, some of the candidates are saying it was quite early. I imagine you, as a member of the Conservative Party, were ready to go and hit the ground running.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a different campaign with a fixed election date where everyone knows the date of the election. It's been a marathon. And so we basically just moved forward as planned, ramped things up a little bit, got our office up and running, and it's been great.
Does that give you a tremendous advantage to know that, or to have the machine all operational, funding in place, signs ready to go? You can start the day the writ is dropped?
Well, we had started back at the beginning of the year. There's nothing in politics better than time.
So you've taken full advantage of that time that you had?
Absolutely, and we've knocked on thousands of doors in the riding and have been receiving a tremendous response.
You've already been out doing a lot of door knocking. What are you hearing from the people in the riding?
Well, I think certainly we're going through a bit of an economic rough patch, and we live in dangerous times. And what I'm hearing from people is the need to see a continuation of the strong, steady leadership of Prime Minister Harper, who over the last 9 years has delivered when it comes to the economy and keeping Canada safe.
And is that the prime issue in the riding of St. Albert-Edmonton? Is it the economy, or are there other subtexts that you're hearing?
Well, I think it's largely the economy right now. And in particular, the need to stand up and defend Alberta's energy sector. You know, Alberta is the economic engine of Canada because of our energy sector. And the one thing that I think people recognize is in Prime Minister Harper and our Conservative government, we have a government that has Alberta's interests at heart.
It's not lost on me that the price of oil goes down, and the price of oil is not fixed by domestic policy. It's fixed by international supply and demand.
Yeah.
And is there anything that a Conservative government can do to change that reality?
Well, we certainly can't control world oil prices, but what we do need is stability and continuity to see us through these challenging times. That's the message that I'm hearing.
And what about, we know about supply and demand, but what about transportation? How do you get the product to market?
Well, we've got to get the pipelines built. We've got to get Keystone built. We've got to get Gateway built, and we've got to work on Canada East. It makes sense from a jobs and economic standpoint, but it also makes sense from a safety and environmental standpoint.
Explain that. How so?
Well, because we're going to get it to market one way or another. And when you look at the alternatives, whether it be rail or other methods, pipelines are by far and away the best way to get it to market.
Why has that not happened to date?
Well, there's for a number of reasons. Certainly with respect to Keystone, there's some U.S. domestic politics at play. But we, as a federal government, have to just continue to make the case assertively.
Let's talk about Michael Cooper,
Yeah.
the candidate.
Sure.
Forgive me, but very young.
Yeah.
How old are you?
Well, I'm 31.
That's very young.
Yeah, I guess.
But not your first foray into politics, perhaps as a candidate, but
Yeah.
you've been involved in this game for some time.
Sure. Well, I've been involved in politics since I was 14. I joined the provincial PC party at that time, and shortly thereafter got involved at the federal level, and over the past 15 years or so have been involved in many different aspects, from serving on a local riding board to serving on a national executive of the party to serving as riding president to running campaigns. And I guess when the nomination opened up in this riding, a lot of people approached me and asked me to run. And after consulting with key leaders in the community and within the party to gauge what the level of support would be, I just came to the conclusion that having lived in the riding my entire life, having been involved in the party for many, many years, but also having been involved in the St. Albert community more broadly, coupled with my background as a lawyer, that taken together I could be a strong and effective voice for the people of St. Albert-Edmonton. So we went out and we sold a lot of memberships, secured the nomination, and as I said, since November have been hitting the ground running to win on October 19th.
And when in this riding, it's a bedroom community of Edmonton. I think that's a fair description, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Is your youth seen as an advantage or a hindrance?
I think it's a wash.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. I think when people know that I'm a lawyer, that I have a lot of experience that I bring to the table, that they're comfortable with me as a candidate.
Well, the riding itself has changed from Edmonton-St. Albert to St. Albert-Edmonton,
Yeah.
and it's slightly smaller.
Geographically.
Geographically.
Yeah.
In terms of total votes, about the same?
Well, it's actually a bit smaller because redistribution occurred in Alberta, got 6 new seats.
Right. So there's slightly less votes to get in this than there used to be. Historically, this area of the province has been a lock for the Conservatives, hasn't it?
More or less.
Has that changed at all?
Well, I think it's going to be a tougher election, and I think that's the case nationally. But on the whole, I'm hearing very strong support.
Today we will be choosing the candidate who will carry the Liberal Party of Canada banner into the next general election and who will serve as the next Liberal Member of Parliament for this great riding of St. Albert-Edmonton.
From all appearances, at this stage, the Liberals are 6 weeks behind the competition.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Beatrice Getuba, and I'm asking for your support to be the Liberal candidate for St. Albert-Edmonton.
Hi, my name is Don Padgett, and I would be proud to be your Member of Parliament. And before that, of course, the important role of being your candidate and working hard for the coming weeks ahead.
Once both candidates had addressed the audience, the voting began, and when those votes were counted, the people chose Ms. Getuba as their candidate. Beatrice Getuba, the brand new candidate for the Liberal Party in the riding of St. Albert-Edmonton. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Were you surprised by the outcome, or did you feel confident?
I felt pretty confident coming into the process, and I think I'm not surprised that the results came out the way they did.
Tell me about your decision to take this step, to put yourself forward, to say, I will stand up and run for office in this riding.
It's about 2 years ago that I felt that call to public service. And I spoke to the Liberal heavyweights in the city and to find out the process, because I hadn't schooled myself in that regard. And once I did, I kept looking around where that could be. And when I realized there was opportunity in the riding, St. Albert, I decided to do it. One of the motivating reasons for that for me is that there is cynicism that has crept into the citizenry, that politics doesn't matter. Those who've been in it are like, oh, it doesn't matter. They do whatever they want anyway. And those who have not even engaged, like the newcomers, it's like their voice don't matter, and it's their process, not their involvement. And that spells danger of the future of this country.
So you reject those ideals that
Yes,
politics
yes.
don't matter. And given your perspective as a person who came to Canada less than 20 years ago from Africa, does that change your point of view? Do you have a different lens than people who have lived all their lives in Canada?
I think sometimes when you have things too good, you tend to take them for granted. But for some of us, we know, and especially when a Canadian government is run properly, it creates that arena for all the political, economic, and other social activities to take place. So it's not a good thing for the government to be disregarded. It's very critical that the people actually engage, because they affect the way we live. And if we are not involved, if nobody's holding them accountable, then they actually do have a play field without due process. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say, no, this is a country with rules and processes that safeguards that. I wanted to take advantage of it and do something and make a difference. It's been very exciting when I've been going around homes. When I tell people I'm running, they look at me and their eyes light up. That, you really? And they realize they can make a difference when I tell them, come and vote for me and I will be there. I want to be able to listen very keenly. I know that this is a riding of great diversity, all walks of life, and so to represent them effectively, there's going to take a lot of listening. Because of my work in the community, as a community organizer, I pretty much know the difficulties, a certain demographics that are found in the riding have. The Africans, yes, the newcomers, demographics. I know their problems and they are hallowing. But I don't want to say that they are the only ones who need to be heard. I believe that the mainstream Canadians also have been here through this process, have experienced changes. I know the businesses with this economy that is doing a number downward, they are wondering what is going to happen. And it is time that we spoke the truth and actually had policies, put in place policies that are evidence-based and have credibility with the businesses peoples, that the government has their interest at heart.
The St. Albert's Farmers Market, the biggest and the best of its kind in all of Alberta. It's a place to see and be seen.
Just wanted to introduce myself to you. I'm Darlene Maleko. I'm running for MP, St. Albert-Edmonton with the NDP. Hello, I'm Darlene Maleko. I'm running for MP with St. Albert-Edmonton with the NDP. How are you?
This is a place where people are exposed to all sorts of new ideas.
Dill pickle fudge.
Yeah, it took us 3 years to figure this one out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so you have samples. Perfect.
Yeah, this one we have to sample. There's a lot of people who go, oh my God, that's so horrible.
So do you vote for dill pickle fudge or not?
I think I'm going to have to support the dill pickle fudge.
That was a new sensation, dill pickle fudge. I gather this has been a couple of weeks of new experiences for you.
It absolutely has. I mean, I'm meeting new people. I'm doing television interviews. I'm doing the Gazette, interviews.
Is it terrifying or is it exciting?
It's both. It's a bit of both. I mean, it's always it's a challenge. Meeting people isn't the hardest thing. Saying the things that you want to say clearly, getting your message out, that sometimes is a bit more difficult.
So why is it that you've only been on the campaign trail for 2 weeks when the writ was dropped on early August?
Well, as we all know, he dropped the writ a little early. I was only nominated, I think I was only nominated 2 weeks ago, so that's when you start up. Before that, I was on the campaign trail somewhat, but you can only do so much before the nomination.
Sure. And did the party come to you and say, Darlene, you're who we're looking for? Or did you go to them and say, pick me?
No, they came to me.
How come?
I think they see me as somebody who is a leader in the community, a leader, a kind of person that wants to make changes and make a difference to regular Canadians. I'm an Albertan. I'm a proud Albertan. I've lived here my whole life.
And by here you mean St. Albert?
St. Albert, yeah. I'm a regular person. I'm a transit operator, a proud member of the St. Albert community, and I love Alberta and I love Canada. I'm probably one of the most patriotic people you'd ever meet. Right? Like I meet people on my bus when I'm driving transit, I meet a lot of people, and one of the things that reinforces my patriotism here is their stories and how many people have come from situations that are horrible situations. So it really makes me appreciate the life I've had here in Canada.
Oil sands, pipelines. I'm wondering what your position is on those two.
Well, Alberta has a strong, we rely on our natural resources. Getting them to market as quickly as possible is important to all Albertans, and I'm one of those proud Albertans that believes that.
And does that fall in line with the National Party's position on oil extraction and transportation?
Well, Mr. Mulcair has clearly indicated and eloquently said that the environment and the economy are tied together and need to be, we deserve the best of both.
And how do you balance that, Darlene? Because some people seem to think that you can't have them together in harmony.
Well, the Conservatives probably do think that, and have lessened our restrictions and made it easy for the environment to be overlooked in some cases. I think there will be hard choices. Absolutely, politics isn't an easy game. We're going to have hard choices, and we're going to have to make decisions based on what's happening at that time. But every pipeline and all those decisions need to be made with the environment in mind. We all have children. I'm a mom. I have grandchildren, and those environmental concerns are my concerns, and I believe that the concerns of the constituents.
Let's talk a little bit about the economy, because I think that in Edmonton and in northern Alberta generally, the economy is of great importance. The price of oil is dropping, and the economy is tied to the price of oil.
That's right.
What do you say to people when they say, well, what is the Liberal government going to do about the economy in northern Alberta?
No, it is true The only thing I agree with Moker is that he says Stephen Harper's plan is plan A, oil, plan B, oil, plan C, oil. Like that's all there is. What I expect the Liberal government to put in place is actually investment. Focus on the growth areas, those sectors of the economy that could bring growth. Now, investment in the infrastructure. I know that this is a vast country. There is room for a lot of growth. If you go through in the housing complexes around here, they are run down. People live badly. Now, the construction industry is one of those that can jumpstart the economy if selectively looked at and investment is directed there. So is the infrastructure, bridges, and everything that falls under that category. While we give the oil room to, the prices to go up, because that too must be looked at very critically. America is nearing self-sufficiency. I'm told China is investing heavily in the clean energy. So we have to look for market. In Europe, our oil is seen as dirty. We need, and that is because we have failed to focus on the environmental friendly policy so that our oil is accepted out there. So there are many, many aspects of work that can be done, strategy that can be laid down by the Liberal government to actually jumpstart the economy.
One of the key planks in Mr. Trudeau's platform is the idea of infrastructure, infrastructure rebuilding, and this requires deficit financing, I suppose. I'm surprised that an accountant by profession, who likes to have the books all balanced at the end of the day, would be prepared to go for deficit financing.
Because it's the reality. You cannot balance books in the time of a recession, because you need to stimulate the economy. And if there's no money flowing, you have to borrow. Now, I believe as an individual, I have to balance my checkbook. That is not so with the government. Not necessarily. It does not mirror. I know we like to say that, but it does not mirror exactly, because the government has got a leeway to borrow and do greater good. Because balancing books is not an end in itself. It is the otherwise you have to tax or cut services in order to balance books. Like now, Moker says he can balance it with all the goodies. He cannot. Stephen Harper says, it will balance the book in a recession. And that's not the truth. So I'm disturbed. That's why Mr. Trudeau is the only one with a focus in mind that we, at this stage, we would have stimulated the economy enough to start balancing. And they did that. The Liberals did that in the late 90s, coming with Martin.
So if they've done it before, your position is they can do it again?
They can do it again and actually create a greater good. So we're not making the country worse off.
There is a fifth candidate seeking election in St. Albert-Edmonton, and her name is Andrea Oldham. She's running for the Green Party. However, in addition to being the candidate, Ms. Oldham is also the party organizer for the Prairie region, and it's those duties that have prevented her from being able to participate in our program today. Mr. Rathgaber left the party to sit as an independent, but he's still running in the riding. What's that effect? What's the Rathgaber effect on the campaign?
Well, I don't think there's much of an effect. We're just not hearing too much about Mr. Rathgaber at the doors. Of course, he has some supporters, but I think at the end of the day, most people understand that in order to see a continuation of a Conservative government, which is where most people are at in this riding, that the only way to do that is to elect a Conservative in St. Albert-Edmonton.
But is there not a risk, from your point of view, that Mr. Rathgaber is going to pull some support? He's a right-of-centre candidate, and he may pull some support away from your candidacy. Yeah,
he's pulling certainly some support away from us, but he's pulling some support away from the Liberals and New Democrats as well. So I think his base of support is mixed.
And what's the final message for the people of St. Albert-Edmonton? You have the floor. Convince them.
Well, I think that during these challenging times, we need to see a continuation of a strong, stable national Conservative majority government. You know, we've come a long way over the last 9 years, and we need to stay the course.
I will run on my record, but I will also run on conservative principles that this Conservative government has abandoned, including respect for taxpayers, you know, end to this huge budget with respect to partisan political advertising disguised as government announcements, the aforesaid balanced budget legislation. I'm adamant that the government spends too much money propping up businesses and industries which ought to pass or fail on their own merits or lack thereof. So I want to see an end to corporate welfare. So there are fiscal conservative principles that this party abandoned a long time ago that, yes, I will provide policy perspectives with respect to critical issues. Another one is the environment. I mean, I'm all for responsible oil sand development and responsible pipeline development, but everybody knows that this government's record with respect to environmental regulation is so abysmal. I mean, they promised emission regulation in 2006 for the oil and gas sector, still haven't delivered on it. As a result, the government in Canada has such an international black eye as being environmental laggards that we can't get any of these projects approved. We can't get Keystone XL approved by the White House. We can't get Kinder Morgan built. We'll never get Northern Gateway built until we have a better environmental record.
But you have to concede that yours is going to be a lone voice from the back bench, making excellent points, but you may not have a great deal of clout.
I disagree with that because the next parliament, unless the polls are all wrong, is going to be a minority parliament. And in a minority parliament, every vote matters. Remember, a single MP propped up the Paul Martin government for another 5 or 6 months before it died. So I will support legislation, irrespective of which party it comes from, that promotes those aforementioned ideas: respect for taxpayers, responsible resource development that takes into account environmental regulations that make us responsible environmental stewards, and therefore improves our reputation internationally. I'll approve a budget that, if need be, helps stimulate the economy while still respecting taxpayers. So I might accept your premise that if it's another majority parliament, irrespective of what color that is, that an independent, no matter how good his or her ideas are, is going to be a loud voice lost in the wilderness. But I dispute that premise in a minority parliament where every vote matters, and whoever forms government, and we don't know if that's going to be orange, red, or blue, but whoever forms government is going to require votes from outside of their party to get stuff done. And I can be one of those votes, but my vote and my support is going to be conditional upon a mandate that has more respect for Parliament, cleans up the omnibus bills, lessens its insistence on time allocation, and most importantly, respects taxpayers.
Royal Purple, you could be the kingmaker.
Royal Purple, I could be the kingmaker.